March 26th Plymouth Village Water and Sewer District meeting to order. It is 5:28. And I need a motion on the meeting minutes, please.
I'll make a motion that we approve the March 14th minutes as presented.
I would second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And payroll and manifests, we have our payroll.
You have payroll, you do not have a manifest because you didn't get the AP quite done yet.
Okay, so just payroll.
All right, I'll make a motion that we approve the most recent payroll.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Alrighty. All right, new business, hours of operation for the office. So I understand there is a request for a change to go with more what's in sync with
Yes, a couple of things.
the plant.
One is we're wondering about having the office hours coincide with the plant hours, which makes some sense. And we're also wondering, or I am also wondering about the number of hours that we're open to the public. We have begun keeping track of
The lack of public?
the number of visits, the number
Right.
of phone calls and so forth around the notion of
That's fair.
if we change the way we're doing finance, and, office hours coverage and so forth, what makes a whole lot of sense. And so, like today, I've asked him to be here for the meetings. It makes more sense in my mind to adjust her hours accordingly so that she doesn't end her day, so she could start later on a day like today. And sooner, and those kinds of things. So a degree of flexibility. We won't change anything such that customers will be shocked, but just wanted to float by you the notion that we're thinking about possibly some changes, and if anybody objects, I won't think any harder.
I think whatever works and makes the most sense, let's do it.
It seems like there's some
You know,
benefits here.
there's benefits
As long as there's no downside.
Yeah.
Then I will, we'll report on that, but we will make some adjustments, and then overall, I'll come back and say, this is what we're
we've
thinking.
done.
We're thinking that the month of April will be a good indication with the.
Well, we have bills due, right?
Yes,
So,
and they're up considerably.
right, which we knew.
Which we knew.
I will make that announcement again.
Yep, and so I'm thinking that April will be a good bellwether in terms of the number of visits. Well, certainly will kick our numbers
Right.
up in terms
It
of
certainly
averages and the number of phone
Right.
calls as people wonder what's going on. But once we have a sense of that, I'll come back with some suggestions in
Okay.
terms of how we do that.
Okay, sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
There was other new business. Purchase orders, do we want to talk about changes to the purchase orders idea?
We can, well, the idea was, and we don't have to change immediately, but my notion was, like tonight, we're meeting for the sake of signing purchase orders pretty much. And so my thinking was to set up, and I use the term Dropbox because that's what I use, but
So does Chris.
a system similar to Dropbox, which essentially we would have the purchase order prepared. Jason or I would prepare a brief memo explaining the purpose, and then we would put it in the Dropbox, and you all could access it at your convenience. And then I would look to you to authorize me to exercise them subject to confirmation with the board. That way you don't have to schlep in here for meetings that are not meetings. And then we would get it set up. I understand the how and the why that this got set up, but it seems a waste of gasoline and people's time and energy if we're just gathering for the sake of signing paperwork.
Right.
Can we do that with right to know? and
I
all the
believe I'll
public
verify it, but
stuff?
my understanding is that, and I would propose that we would have a folder on the website, similar to the minutes. We'd accomplish the same thing, is that the information with regard to what purchase orders were signed today are reflected in your minutes.
Right,
We could either have them reflected in the minutes by reference
right.
at the subsequent meeting,
Right.
or if there was a sense of urgency to get them out there, we could have them placed in a file on the website, and then you could vote to accept the ones that are on the website.
Right.
So I'm not worried at all about the kind of the transparency of it.
Right, the
Google
transparent,
Drive might be good since we are all using Gmail accounts for,
right, that's true.
the office uses Gmail, so we could use Google Drive, which the guys have Gmail, so they could all upload.
You are talking to the wrong person when you're talking about technology. People tell me what to do and then I do it.
Okay,
So in this instance, I will make sure that I get the person who knows what they're doing to do it. And if
Okay.
Kim is that person, I truly haven't been around long
I think
enough to
Google
know.
Drive might be the easiest since we all have Gmail anyway.
I believe it's still,
I know Jason is very good at
Yeah.
uploading everything to Google Drive.
Well,
so-
then let's stick with
Maybe
that. That
Jason
would
or
make
Fred probably
more
is
sense.
sharing
I just want to be sure. I want to be sure that it's secure
Mhm.
enough that people can't get in and monkey with them. That's all.
Right,
well, one should be able to dedicate a folder
on
with access
Google
to.
Drive, just with access with the people who need it.
Okay.
And if they're uploaded as PDFs, we can't edit them or do
Yeah.
anything.
Oh, I wasn't worried about you guys. I was worried
Yeah,
more
but,
about
I
somebody
mean-
else getting in and.
But same thing, I
Yeah.
mean, you don't want us mucking around with them either. So
It's not- It's
PDFs
not
are
like we're
probably
putting
the,
checks or banking information.
Right.
Yeah.
Paul, how,
I have no problem with that as long as we notify the public.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
the main thing. It takes 2 signatures to get anything done anyway.
Yep.
As far as I'm concerned, the manifest, the payroll manifest could be done the same way. I'm used to doing it that way as a selectman.
Okay.
We usually just basically come in, we needed 2 signatures before anybody could get paid.
Yep.
And then we announced,
Yep.
you know, as long as you announce all these things, or put them on the website like you suggested.
Yep.
The people.
yeah, we just have to be able to read them and make sure everything looks good and that we don't have questions and things
Right.
like that, so.
Yeah.
Right, I mean, I guess,
I don't see why doing them electronically doesn't make
right,
sense.
it's with the caveat that we have reviewed the appropriate, right to know. I mean, I just.
Right,
Yeah.
just
Oh,
make
yeah, I
sure
would-
it's
I would-
I
okay.
don't want to make any assumptions about right to know. I mean, I
Yeah.
think we
So-
have gone to great lengths here.
Needs to make sure
Yes.
we're transparent,
Yeah,
so.
and I would run it by council and make sure
Yes.
that I got a.
Okay,
That
Yes.
sounds like a reasonable plan.
Yes.
And I'll do that in writing so
Okay.
that
Excellent.
we've got our
Yes.
paper covered.
yeah. And I think using Google Drive, it just makes sense because we're all set up on Gmail anyway,
Yes,
that it'll make it easy to access. We don't have to create Dropbox accounts for people who don't have Dropbox,
Yep.
and we
Fair.
can- that works.
Yep, it's fine with
All
me.
right,
you have a Gmail account? No.
No, I have a Roadrunner account.
You certainly can create a Gmail
yeah, you
account.
create a dedicated Gmail just for this.
Yeah, I could do
Even
that, I
if
suppose.
it's-
Yeah, yeah.
We'll provide some assistance if you need it.
Well, I may need it, because I'm like you. I'm not computer savvy 100%, but,
I have,
I can set you up one, Paul, if you need it.
but,
Yeah.
I can set you up one if you need it.
yeah, okay,
I just need a couple of personal information things to set
okay,
one up.
fine.
Great.
you reach a point, Paul, where you understand, at a certain age, you understand it's not important to know
Every.
how to do it, it's important to know who knows how to do it.
How to get it done.
Right, exactly.
That's
Who's
all
gonna
there
do
is
it
to
for me?
I got that one.
All right, does anybody else have any other new business at the
I'm
moment?
under old business in there.
All right, old business. So bills are going to be sent at the end of the week. They'll go out on Friday. And just as a reminder, the water and sewer rates are up. The new rates are on our website. If you've got any questions, you can call the office. We've made announcements and voted on and have done all that stuff. So the bills are going to be a little bit higher than in the past.
Yes, they will.
So I'm planning on keeping
It's
my
not-
water down
And
to
it's
droplets.
somehow having them go out on April 1st seems appropriate.
There you go. All right.
Yeah.
Not sure
Unfortunately, it's not
everybody
a
else is
joke.
gonna feel that way, but All right. and-
Importantly, everyone at this table is subject to those same higher rates.
Right,
So it's not like
exactly.
we're-
They're
we're
coming
taking
into
our
our,
own medicine.
Yep. Yep. All righty, and we have purchase recs, and originally we had 3, but now we have way more than 3.
We do, but I have not had a chance to review the way more part, so.
Okay, do we just want to do the 3?
Yes.
All right.
Okay, so we have one for Buckley Associates for Green Hex centrifugal wall exhaust fan.
Yeah, we need one in the chlorine room.
And it was $1,050, or is $1,050.
Okay.
Pass that along. We have electrical installations of Molten Borough, and it is for $1,346. Say again?
We were just talking about the line silo.
134616, and this is for work on a PO for work that the company had to come and diagnose problems, order parts, and then needed to install the parts associated with an Allen Bradley PowerFlex 4 AC drive and an automation direct signal converter.
I'm assuming this is going into the line that
Silo?
feeds the dryer, the press.
Yeah.
Found line,
Yes.
line,
Kim's saying
line
yes.
screw is tripping
Yep.
out, troubleshoot, found unit, and the clog due to press problems.
Yeah. Okay. There we go. And then,
And the final one is to repair bar rack at the treatment plant. 4 out of 6 welds broke, and it's a $600.
That's actually, I think, one of the new.
that's
Yeah,
the
that's
new
one of the
one.
new
This
ones.
is
You
for
want-
Oh,
our
that's a new one?
QA studies.
You want ERA for QA studies.
ERA?
$602.70.
Yes. We keep going back in time.
He had the right amount, but
There it is, right on the bottom of the top. And this is ERA for $602.70, correct?
yep.
Yes.
And it's DMR QA 38 study supplies.
These lab supplies?
Huh?
Are these lab supplies?
Something that they.
Yeah, quality assurance
tests.
That you
Yep.
go to the EPA with.
Okay.
NPDES permit.
Yep. Yeah, because if we don't do our NIPDES permit, we get in trouble.
And I apologize, I will learn the language eventually.
I'll learn it. I'll learn it with you, some of it.
Yeah, just in the past, the purchase recs got sort of piled up in front of me, and we went through them or in front of the chair, so you don't
Okay.
have to sit and read them unless you really have some
Oh,
desire
okay.
to do it.
Well, one of the reasons I'm suggesting the
Change, just so
Google
we don't
Doc,
have
the
to do
Google
this.
Doc, well, that in the paragraph.
Yeah,
It seems like it would be helpful if there was a little less, or a little more English
okay. Oh, English is
Right,
not,
yeah.
it's all
to help us
letters
understand.
and, yep. So I need a motion to accept those purchase recs now that we've happily signed them.
I'll make a motion that we accept the 3 purchase recs as presented.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, did anybody have any other questions about them?
No.
Not
All right, well,
these.
I'll do a quick explanation of the last one. We have a permit that we have to, it's the New Hampshire NIH PDES, I think.
Yep.
It's the New Hampshire Public Environmental something or other, God, it's a big long thing, but
Keys, right?
yeah, NIPDES. We actually have to be in compliance, so we do QA, QC studies all the time, and this is part of our quality control, quality assurance studies. So that's what that is all about. So you have learned what the ERAs for the DMRs are.
I have not, but I will.
You'll get
promise.
there. Yep. All right, and we have no public, so no public comment. Upcoming meetings are April 9th and April 30th. Anybody have any issues with any of those?
April 9th is, unless there's something pressing, I'd suggest that we postpone it or just cancel it, because some of us are going to be in Concord all
yes.
day at a rate setting.
Oh, is that the
meeting.
9th?
That's at the 10th.
It is?
It's the
No,
ninth.
no,
It's
it's,
It
the
is the
ninth.
9th.
It is
Yes.
the ninth, I believe, yes.
yeah, yes.
Oh, okay.
So,
And you got the email that it's
Yes,
full.
I did, and I'm going.
You're going anyway?
No,
No,
I
no,
am
there's
going.
been-
There was an
there's
There's
been-
another
Oh, there was
opening.
an opening?
update.
Oh, okay, I didn't
moved
hear
it to
about
a
the other
larger-
opening, so I was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
No,
They
I
moved
am
to a
going.
larger venue.
It is
so
the
they were
ninth.
able to accommodate more.
Okay.
so.
All right, great.
So
Yes, I'm looking forward to it.
at the following meeting, we'll be so smart you won't be able to stand this.
There you
I don't know
go.
about that.
So, do we want to postpone it for the following week, or do we want to wait a whole month? Because that'll be a whole month then before we meet.
I'll defer to your judgment on that. We could tentatively schedule it a week out and see if there's
I would
business.
schedule it a week out at the moment. Does that mess anybody up?
So the 9 is, so that would be the 16th.
15th or the 16th.
It would be the 16th, right?
Yep.
Right, so April
Should we change
16th.
it to the 16th?
Yep, 16th and 30th.
Okay.
Usually we try the second and fourth Tuesdays
Yep.
of the
No, that's
month.
fine.
So,
That works for me.
alrighty, so April 16th and April 30th. Got it.
Duly noted.
And if there is nothing else, I guess we're done.
Well,
That-
there's just a couple of questions I've got here.
Alright, we're not done. Go ahead.
Pardon me? I kind of, along with what Don was talking about before, when you came in, I had already thought this process through of what we're gonna do down the road, and just some thinking out loud here.
Mhm.
You may disagree or agree, I don't really care one way or the other, we'll do whatever the board decides to do. But my approach may be similar to Don's, I didn't hear the whole conversation,
Right,
but I think we need to, obviously, first of all, find out what revenues we got coming in. That's one of the important things that we're gonna need to know before we even look at the CIP. If
well, we pretty much know what our revenues are gonna be, generally, because we know what we billing.
Right, that's what I'm
Right.
saying. Once we establish that, then we can start working, I would think, on the CIP, and we can actually project out probably for the entire year after we've gone through at least 2 cycles, I would think.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
gives us-
My thinking is a little bit different. My thinking is to, and I've asked the engineers, I met with them today, and I've asked them to tell me not only what the 19 million was intended for, but what else was out there. And this is a spitballing. I'm not asking, I didn't ask them for any hard numbers. But there's 2 issues. There's total dollars amount, and then there's the time continuum in which
Right.
those dollars have to be paid back.
Right.
And so what I understood from today is we're talking 19 million in round numbers that was going to be bonded for 30 years, or 9 million, let's call it 9 million, was going to be bonded for 30 years. And that would accomplish a fair amount, but not everything that needed to be accomplished.
Right.
In the water master plan.
Yeah.
No,
Right.
master
One or
plan.
two, yeah. And
Right.
so for me, part of the other issue is understanding what's the peak year. So that if we're obligating the district for 30 years to pay
X
$9
million
million,
dollars. Right,
along that time continuum, there's going to be other things that have to get done that are going to require debt service.
Right.
And so what are those likely to be and what are they likely to occur? So we can look and say, at some point, the largest amount of debt we're going to owe is X. And that translates into Y in terms of a tax rate, making certain assumptions.
right.
30 years is a long time, forever is even longer. So we need to be thinking a little bit about where that stands. And so what I'm hoping to do is start there and look at
Right.
the whole system. What are the potential dollar impacts? And then have some conversations about, how do we deal with this? Because my reading suggests that the whole issue of infrastructure reconstruction or rebuilding is this daunting, nobody's sure what happens next kind of issue. And clearly, I mean, what you dealt with last year was, or earlier this year, was if we borrow 9 million, or if we borrow 18 million, we got to pay it back.
Right.
And, you know, the future isn't always as predictable as we would like it to be. So what I'm hoping to do is kind of, rather than having the CIP be an end in itself, what I'd like to do is have a business plan that is the end in itself, and the CIP is part of that.
Okay.
And so I know that when I last visited you, you had placed a lot of emphasis on trying to get a CIP done within 6 months or so. I don't think that I can give you a bunch of numbers, which is what I think your CIP was. It was a bunch of numbers in priority. I mean,
Well, yeah, I mean, we had the projects mapped
Yeah.
out based on what the engineers had worked out and through, and a couple of the things you mentioned before were not things that they had
Yeah.
mentioned on that CIP, you
Yeah.
know, like the sprinklers in downtown.
And-
I was
and
like,
so-
and that's not something that I remember
Well,
talking about.
and, you know, and again, part of what my thinking is that the community is an integrated system, and so the water and sewer are essential components of this system. Which,
Okay.
you know, there's public safety and there's public education and there's all those other pieces, but the backbone is to a large extent water and sewer. So a lot of what happens in the community can't happen if you don't have
Right, water,
adequate
sewer, right.
water sewer system. So part of it is who are likely partners in terms of the conversations that need to be had. But beyond that, it's kind of the business, it's thinking about how we're going to make this happen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not only us, because for many of us, or probably all of us, you know, 50 years is a long time. And so the decisions that were made 50 years ago, we're regretting to some extent today.
Mm-hmm.
Because the decisions were either made to go on the cheap, or to ignore certain issues, or to ignore certain issues about maintaining it after you build it.
Right.
So we built it to solve a
Right.
problem, not
Replacement
thinking about what
Right,
happens next.
yeah, there was no, I think when the plant was built and everything else, there were no, you know, when everything's brand shiny new, who's thinking about what's gonna happen 30 or 40 years
Yeah.
down the road, and you know, I better be setting aside all this money.
That's right.
And, you know, we had periods of time where we weren't, you
Yeah.
know, raising rates or doing anything to set aside the money that we needed, so.
So, and you know, that's another piece of the concern is that a $9 million bond needs to be accompanied by a replacement reserve. So when that $9 million worth of investment is amortized, the money's there. That's how we got into this mess nationally, is that we built them
Right.
with somebody else's money.
Well, it's all over, like I was saying earlier, it's all
Yep.
over the United States. If you just listen to the news and you hear about water systems that aren't working, and, you know, there was that big breakdown in Manchester, and, you know,
Yeah.
so.
So to that end, I mean, one is I would like us to do a series of workshops and come in and do that. The other is, if so long as you don't object, well, actually, I probably will send them anyway, but just articles that I have been and will continue to get that talk about what others are doing. Some
Right.
things pretty creatively, others, you know, at least feeling that we're not the only ones in this position, because it's a national crisis.
Yes.
And so,
Yep.
and, you know, and part of it at some point is gonna be educating the people who are gonna have to pay the bill. I mean, there are
Right.
3 of them. But I'm not sure that the rules of thumb that have got us here are gonna be the rules of thumb, the 3%
That we want
as
to
an
carry,
example.
right, that we want to carry forward.
So,
Right.
that's kind of the strategy that I'm thinking about. And, you know, I don't, as I've said to you, I mean, I don't mind pushback, so if you think I'm kind of wandering in the wrong direction, just say so. But I think that more meaningful than the capital improvement, than a full-blown capital improvement plan, is a business plan. We are doing a high-risk analysis right now. It's part of my conversation with the engineers. I pretty
Okay.
much described it, that, you know, I want them to provide a list of where we might be in danger of a catastrophic failure.
Yep. Well, that was sort of what the capital improvements plan was supposed to be. Like, that's why we have things that were on the docket for this year and
Yep.
next year and the year after, because they had assessed those as being most
Yeah.
high risk.
But the water master plan indicates both the severity of a failure, but also the lack of capacity. I mean, clearly
Right,
that's a
right.
big issue on South
Yeah.
Main Street.
Yep.
And there is some probabilistic
Oh, absolutely.
information in there. It just
Yeah, I mean, they relied, and we should, I had this conversation with them today, they relied heavily on design life.
right. So,
Right,
so,
exactly.
Which
so
is-
ductile, or the
Yeah.
cast
Right,
iron,
ductile
lasts,
iron and, yep.
right, it lasts
Yeah,
X number of
And that's
years.
really not what-
that's part of an analysis, but that's not total
Right.
analysis. I mean, and I point out is, if you look at New York, you look at Boston, you look at some of the old systems, I mean, there's stuff in the ground from the 1800s.
Yep,
And so,
All those
should it
wooden
have,
ones.
should it have failed? I don't know, but it didn't.
right,
So what I'm worried about, one of the things I learned today is the risk exposure of the sewer line along the railroad here along the river is from a failure perspective. The engineers were very emphatic that pipe is,
right, and that
bad-
wasn't something that
bad or
was,
worse.
they were focusing on the sewer line on that side of the river coming from
Yep.
Burger King and up cross country. So you're talking about the one that runs this way.
And that's
So-
they inform me that's the backbone of the system.
Yep,
And it is, there are places where it's totally deteriorated, but it is deteriorating very quickly. And, their answer, if I said, and the question was, if I have to worry about you calling in the middle of the night and saying we've had a colossal failure that's going to be in the news, what is it? And that's what they described.
Right, discharging immediately into the river.
Yep.
right, yeah,
And
which
part-
we
part
don't
of it-
want,
Part of it is part of it is our issue,
Right.
deteriorating pipes. Part of it is where the pipe is.
Is.
It's in the railroad
Right.
right of way, and there's a risk of exposure and
right,
and
as the erosion
flood
happens
waters.
and flooding and,
You're
yep,
predisposed to flood. So, there's a reality to us knowing where are we
right,
at
where
risk,
are we?
and then doing what we can do to prevent the problem, but also being prepared for the problem if it occurs. I mean, some sort of contingency plan, so we're able to say, look, if it fails, what are we going to do?
Right,
Don't call me. Who are we going? Who's on the list? So
Right,
it's a
exactly.
typical CEO, emergency management kind of exercise. Jason's really good at that stuff,
Yep.
and that's where his head is. So, and a lot of it's already in place. So some of it is just reassuring for us
Right.
that
That
we
it's
have
in place,
anticipated that
right,
it's in
we know
place,
what-
and being able to say to the public that we know that it's there, rather than waiting till after the fact and looking at one another saying, gee, I never thought about that. So,
Well, I guess, part of that is the presentation to the public. We can wait until this fails. What is the dollar amount if this fails catastrophically?
Yeah.
It's probably significantly more than if we,
right, if
Do
we
the
start
replacement.
doing
Oh,
the
absolutely.
repairs, right,
so if we have
exactly.
something that is that dire,
That's,
Yeah.
so there's our, not only risk assessment, but cost benefit
Yeah.
Right.
analysis, yeah.
which is what we had wanted to have
Some of
done.
your information you can find in the book. Our book will tell you what bonds we have
Yep.
and what amounts we already are bonded for.
Yep.
The number you were talking about, the $20 million, if you add our bonds that we already have with what we would have gotten, minus what the grant was,
yep,
you hit it right on the nail. It's right around $20 million.
Yeah.
And for an entity as small as us, it's pretty hard to make a payment like that. It gives us no flexibility at all.
Yeah.
So
Right.
you add that with, there's other information out there about what projects that the board was thinking about before I came on it, and what the priorities they were, and
Yep.
as Judy said, I think they were probably the real major concerns at that time.
Right,
Well, I don't doubt that that what you were going to do was critically important.
there just might be more critically important.
Well, there's no question that there's more. I'm not sure I would characterize it as critically important, but there's more. You're going to have to make more investment along that 30-year time continuum.
Oh,
Right,
absolutely.
of course.
I agree with that.
And that's part of it seems to me, the responsible conversation is, at some point, what does that look like?
Right.
If we're going to be $29 million in debt in 2022, what does it look like in 2035?
Right.
Is it have we paid down the 22 million, or have we had to borrow another 10?
10 to
So we're
keep
now
it
up to
going, right.
36.
Right,
And at the same time, I mean, what I haven't seen, and they didn't do any forecasting for the environment. You know, where's Plymouth going to be? Where's the town of Plymouth going to be in 2025? Where's
Right.
it going to be in 2035? And obviously, it's spitballing. I mean,
right,
nobody has.
knows, right,
But certain people, you know, the university's making investments based upon projections. I don't know what those are. Would be nice to know.
Right.
Holderness School is making a set of
Right.
investments based upon a set of projections. The school
Right.
system is making a set of projections. You know, we need to be sure that whatever they're projecting, we're considering. They may not be right, but if we don't know what they're projecting, it's hard
Right.
for us to decide.
Yeah.
You know, one of the issues that I think is important, if we're going to replace pipes, should we size them differently
Yes.
for the future?
yeah,
Because
That's
forever.
Or are we
Think
doing
about
that
it.
based on all of the information that's available based on
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
some of our
And-
bigger
Right.
customers?
And that was some of the information that was available in the master plan.
Yep. Yeah. Right.
You can
Right.
see some of the, you can see some of the upgrades in the areas
Yep.
where removing pipe and upgrading
Yep.
from 6 to 8 or
right,
Yep.
8 to 12
Exactly.
or whatever the case was. So
Yeah.
that master plan is a good resource.
Oh, I know. They did it. They did a good job. The other piece that I just mentioned briefly is we need to look at where might the system expand in 20 years,
right,
or 30 years, or 40 years. I mean,
Yeah.
we're certainly placing an emphasis on Tenny Mountain Highway, but that's.
there's a limit to
Yeah, well,
what
I was
can
going to say,
go out there.
that's one direction, but there are
Right.
3 other directions on the
Directions.
compass.
Absolutely.
Yep,
And, you know, what does that mean?
yep,
So, in any event, that's my thought, is that
Okay.
we would start,
You and I are thinking very similar. We're just approaching it from a different direction, that's all.
well, you say what to say about great minds.
I don't know how great it is, but
My grandmother used to say, great minds think alike, fools seldom differ.
Yeah, well, I've done a lot of reading on the master plan, and I've given this some thought, because
Yeah.
I know money-wise, it's gonna be an issue for us as a community.
exactly,
And I agree with the rate hike. I mean, I wasn't too thrilled about it, and I know our ratepayers aren't gonna be too happy about it, but if, they'd be a lot less happy if they didn't have water and sewer.
that's true.
That's all I have to
So,
say.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
Well,
anything else?
No, I think for that's enough to chew on.
Chew
the
on for
moment.
tonight? Alrighty, so can I entertain a motion to adjourn?
Yeah. I'll make a motion, we adjourn at 6 PM.
I would
6
second
p.m.
that.